Hello and good evening. The Union Cabinet has approved the Model Tenancy Act, which can now be adapted by states and union territories. It's being seen as a huge step in formalizing the property rental market worth over 1.5 lakh crore rupees in the country. We'll get you more on that on Newsnight tonight. I'm Gautam Roy. We'll also be talking with our guests about how the government has paved the way for the entry of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines into the country, apart from other approved foreign vaccines, and how that will spur the nation's vaccination drive further on as well. But first, as always, our headlines. The government takes another key decision in the battle against COVID-19. Exemption granted from conducting bridging trials to several vaccines approved abroad, including Pfizer and Moderna. The measure is set to pave the way for the entry of these vaccines into India to accelerate the nationwide vaccination campaign. The central government dismisses media reports alleging shortage of vaccines, says states and union territories were given over 6.1 crore doses in the month of May. Over 1.62 crore doses are available with states and union territories on the 31st of May as well. Positivity rate of COVID cases declines steadily in the country. Recovery rate climbs to 92.48%. Active cases declined by 1,01,875 during the last 24 hours. Testing also ramped up with over 35 crore samples tested so far. Several state boards also decide to cancel Class 12 exams a day after the CBSE's decision not to hold the tests. Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Uttarakhand state boards announced the decision to scrap the Class 12 exams this year. The Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, approves the Model Tenancy Act for circulation to all states for adaptation by enacting fresh legislation or amending existing rental laws suitably. It will help overhaul the legal framework with respect to rental housing across the country. Union Health Minister Dr. Harshvardhan's term as chair of WHO's executive board comes to an end. The minister had assumed the responsibility last year. The minister says there is need to strengthen global partnership and work collectively to tackle the ongoing crisis due to the coronavirus pandemic. Malaysia registered strong objection to intrusion of Chinese military aircraft into its airspace. Chinese ambassador to be summoned to seek an explanation. 16 Chinese military aircraft conducted a strategic flight over the South China Sea, intruding into Malaysian airspace. And Team India is ready to take on New Zealand in the ICC World Test Championship final in England. India to also play 5 Test series against England during its tour. India captain Virat Kohli and coach Ravi Shastri expressed confidence over prospects of winning ahead of departure. Well, new cases of COVID-19 continue to diminish in the country. However, some states are still reporting higher cases following footsteps of CBSE. Some states, including Haryana, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh and Uttarakhand, have decided to cancel the Class 12 board exams as well.
As the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic gripped the country, the academic calendar for higher education was the worst hit. Both students and their parents are an equally worried lot. Conducting the 12th class board examinations in such circumstances indeed comes as a challenge, as it poses a severe health risk for students and teachers both. Concerns of teachers, students and parents have finally been taken into consideration as the CBSE cancelled the board exams for Class 12 on Tuesday. Following the footsteps of the CBSE, secondary education boards of several states decided to cancel the exams, and this list now includes Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Uttarakhand and Haryana.
मध्य प्रदेश में 12वीं बोर्ड की परीक्षाएं इस वर्ष आयोजित नहीं की जाएंगी। बच्चों की जिंदगी हमारे लिए अनमोल है। कैरियर की चिंता हम बाद में कर लेंगे। इस समय बच्चों पर, जब वो कोरोना का संकट झेल रहे हैं, पूरा देश और प्रदेश झेल रहा है, परीक्षाओं का मानसिक बोझ डालना कतई उचित नहीं है।
प्रधानमंत्री जी ने कक्षा 12वीं एग्जाम रद्द करने का जो निर्णय किया, उस सिलसिले में आज गुजरात की कैबिनेट ने भी गुजरात बोर्ड की एग्जामिनेशन परीक्षा रद्द करने का निर्णय लिया है।
As the COVID-19 pandemic caseload is on a decline across the country, on Wednesday, the country recorded less than 2 lakh daily new cases for 6 continuous days now, and India's daily new cases stand at 1.32 lakh. With 17,93,645 active cases, the caseload is below 20 lakh for 2 successive days. India's daily recoveries continue to outnumber the daily new cases for the 20th consecutive day. 2,31,456 recoveries were registered in the last 24 hours. Recovery rate further climbs to 92.48%, while daily positivity rate has reduced and stands at 6.57%. The weekly positivity rate is currently at 8.21%. In the midst of falling infection and the possibility of an emerging third wave in the future, work on expanding the health facilities in all states of the country is going on a war footing. A 500-bedded hospital was inaugurated in Haldwani, Uttarakhand on Wednesday by Chief Minister Tirath Singh Rawat. This hospital has been built by the DRDO. The hospital is equipped with 375 oxygen beds and 125 ICU beds. While on one hand, corona warriors and frontline workers are making continuous efforts in containing the second wave of the pandemic in the country, on the other hand, dismal reports of healthcare workers being targeted upon are also coming in from different parts of the country. One such incident pertains to Jharkhand, where due to lack of awareness and prevailing misconceptions, the vaccination team was attacked on Tuesday near the Torpa police station area of Khunti district, where the healthcare workers narrowly managed to escape.
कुछ शरारती तत्वों के द्वारा इस तरह का कार्य किया जा रहा है जो कहीं से भी उचित नहीं है, और हम आपके माध्यम से भी ये जरूर कहेंगे कि इस तरह का काम उचित नहीं है, ऐसा ना करें। इस तरह के काम किए जाएंगे तो इस पे कड़ी कार्रवाई करने से हम लोग पीछे नहीं हटेंगे।
Another such grim incident came to light from Hojai district of Assam on Tuesday, where a junior doctor at a government hospital was mercilessly attacked by the family members of a COVID patient who succumbed to the disease. The doctors of the medical college in Guwahati staged protests on Wednesday. While the Hojai police has arrested 24 miscreants in connection with the incident, Chief Minister Hemanta Biswa Sarma has condemned the incident. In a tweet, he said, 24 culprits involved in this barbaric attack have been arrested and the charge sheet will be filed at the earliest. I'm personally monitoring this investigation and I promise that justice will be served. With the cases of COVID-19 declining in the country, several states of the country are easing restrictions, unlocking in a phase-wise manner. In Bihar, all shops reopened after a gap of 1 month with permission to operate from 6 in the morning to 2 in the afternoon. The traders have welcomed this move. However, in Jammu and Kashmir, partial curfew continues and roads still wore a deserted look. It is pertinent to note that in the past few days, Jammu Kashmir has seen a rapid surge in COVID-19 cases. Bureau Report, DD India.
India's nationwide vaccination drive is set to get a major boost, with the central government about to give emergency use authorization to both the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. They're also likely to get indemnity, eliminating a legal hurdle to their entry into the country. Major plans have also been put in place to ramp up vaccine production in the country as well, so that ample vaccine shots are available by the end of July and all eligible citizens in the country are vaccinated by the end of 2021.
The government's strict steps and other measures have ensured that the second COVID wave is diminishing in the country. But to ensure safety of all from any future challenges, the government is also taking the vaccination campaign onwards swiftly. The government is making unceasing efforts to procure the maximum number of vaccine doses, and the goal is to have all eligible citizens vaccinated by December. Sources are saying that India is now ready to give emergency use authorization to Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. These vaccines will be given an exemption from conducting bridging trials. The government is also likely to grant indemnity to both Pfizer and Moderna for their vaccines. 100 people will be kept under observation after giving them the vaccines for 7 days. The vaccines will be added to the nationwide campaign if all goes well. A Pfizer spokesperson has said that the company is in regular touch with the Indian government. He said as the talks are still ongoing, details cannot be divulged at this point. Meanwhile, Union Minister of State for Home Affairs G. Kishan Reddy has said that the government has made a plan to vaccinate all eligible citizens in the country by December with the production of 250 crore doses of different vaccines.
दिसंबर अंत तक देश में सभी लोगों को वैक्सीनेशन देने का एक एक्शन प्लान भारत सरकार ने बनाया। लगभग 250 करोड़ वैक्सीनेशन डोसेस का प्रोडक्शन करने का भारत एक सभी अलग अलग फार्मा कंपनी से अलग अलग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से एक चर्चा करके एक्शन प्लान बनाया।
Another vaccine which will see huge ramping up in production to accelerate the nationwide vaccination drive is Covaxin. Halfkind Biopharma is getting ready to manufacture Covaxin vaccine. Halfkind has been given a timeline of 8 months to start production. Bharat Biotech will have technology transfer arrangement with Maharashtra government PSU Halfkind. Halfkind proposes to produce 22.8 crore doses of the vaccine in a year. Halfkind has got 65 crore rupees as grant from the central government and 94 crore rupees from the Maharashtra government. The production will take place at the Parel complex of the company.
हाफकिन बायोफार्मा कॉरपोरेशन ने जनवरी महीने में डिपार्टमेंट ऑफ बायोटेक्नोलॉजी को प्रपोजल सबमिट किया था, जिसमें हमने प्रपोज किया था कि कोवैक्सीन का प्रोडक्शन हम तैयार करेंगे, उसमें टेक्नोलॉजी ट्रांसफ़र भी होगी और सीड स्टेट, और इसके प्रोजेक्ट के लिए फंडिंग अगर दी जाए तो हम ये वैक्सीन तैयार कर सकते हैं। जिस तरह से हमने प्रस्तावित किया है, अगर सब सही समय पर सब उसी कैपेसिटी के हिसाब से अगर चला तो हमने लगभग 2 करोड़ एक महीने प्रति माह ऐसे करके एक पूरे वर्ष में 22.8 करोड़ डोजेस का हमने प्लानिंग किया है।
The nation is swiftly moving forward on the vaccination front. According to the Health Ministry, over 21.85 crore vaccine doses have been administered in the country so far, of which over 23.97 lakh doses were given during the last 24 hours. The central government is providing free vaccine doses to states and union territories. Over 23 crore vaccine doses have been made available by the central government for states and UTs. Over 1.64 crore doses are still available with states and UTs. The central government has also been in regular touch with vaccine manufacturers to ensure effective availability of shots, and from the 1st of May this year, it opened up options for states and UTs to buy the vaccines. However, the central government's vaccination strategy has been questioned in some sections of the media based on unfounded allegations. Some reports have claimed that the central government promises 12 crore vaccine doses in June, while of the 7.9 crore doses available in May, only 5.6 crores were administered. The government has termed the report baseless and false. 6.106 crore doses have been administered by the states and UTs. 1.622 crore unused doses are still available with the states and UTs. Bureau Report, DD India.
Let's now bring up our In Focus tonight, which is all about how the country's vaccination drive will be boosted. Boost for nationwide vaccination drive with the kind of call the centre has taken today, the central government. And to talk about it, we have with us Professor Dr. Randeep Guleria, who's Director of All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Delhi. And we also have Dr. Rakesh Agrawal, Director JIPMER and member WHO Strategic Advisory Group of Experts on Immunization. Very good evening to you, Dr. Guleria. First up, what do you think, to what extent will the vaccination drive in the country, which is on, it's nationwide already, more than 22 crore people, vaccine doses have already been administered. But what kind of a boost will it get with now these waivers also being given to foreign vaccines?
So I think this will be a big boost because this will really increase the vaccination pool. 2 or 3 things over the next few weeks will really help. One is the regulatory approval so that vaccines from outside can now easily come in and we would be able to give vaccines which have been approved from the other countries itself. Along with that, also one is very hopeful that by next month, the production as far as the Indian vaccine producers are concerned, both Bharat Biotech, the Serum Institute of India and Sputnik will also ramp up their production, and we will have a large number of doses available in the coming few weeks.
Right. And Dr. Agarwal, if I were to ask you in how the vaccination strategy itself is proving to be dynamic to ensure that the expansion that we need, because initially it was confined to the more vulnerable sections of society, then on the 1st of May it was expanded, and that the vaccination availability and the entire process keeps pace with the need, which has now become manifold.
So if we have to keep pace for the requirement to be met, we need more vaccine. So the best way is to try to get as many doses as possible of different types of vaccine. Currently, in the country, we have 2 types of vaccine being manufactured, and those we have. In addition, we have received some doses of Sputnik, and Sputnik's production is going to start in the country. Currently, the first batch is being tested. And now what the government is doing is to get some new vaccines that are not manufactured in India imported. The process of their import, the process of their approval has been made simpler by the DCGI through the order that has been now issued. Because these vaccines have been evaluated by very stringent regulatory authorities around the world and also by the WHO during its EUL process. Therefore, we can be fairly certain of their efficacy and safety. And the CDSCO is now not going to insist on very detailed testing for them in India. We will not ask for bridging studies. This will mean that the vaccines will be available in India very quickly, and we will be able to ramp up our program.
Now, Dr. Guleria, what people would be wondering is why initially did the government really insist on these prerequisites for the entry of these vaccines, and why have they now been waived? Could you help explain that in the first place?
So in the beginning, when these vaccines got regulatory approval, they had not really been given to a large number of people. Only phase 3 trials were done, and there was a concern that could there be some side effects which could be related to ethnic variation, that is as far as the Indian population is concerned. But as we've learned over the last few months that as more and more people have been vaccinated, both in the UK and in the US, and many of them are of Indian origin, one has now sufficient data to show that these vaccines are safe, not only in the population that they've been vaccinated, but even for people from Indian origin. And that has also given a lot of confidence that they are safe and are meeting the regulatory standards. In the early part, bridging studies were done just to make sure that there was no side effects which could be specific to the ethnic population in India and which may have been missed by studies being done abroad. But over the last few months, we have now good, robust data which suggests that this is unlikely, and that is why they have now been given approval. And one is very hopeful that this will really give a big boost to the vaccination program in our country.
Okay, Dr. Agarwal, just if you can draw any kind of an estimate as to what extent will these vaccines be able to get entry into India so that they can really augment the vaccination drive that is already going on, because in the case of say the Pfizer vaccine, the kind of cold chain prerequisites are far more stringent, and colder temperatures are required for a longer time in transit.
So it will depend upon how much those companies are able to spare and supply to India. That is going to be one of the main restrictions, and those companies are also increasing production because they are completing their commitments to many countries that had asked for vaccine and paid them in advance. So I think they should be able to spare much more. These companies are also setting up more plants with contract manufacturing or other procedures, so that should also help. Yes, these vaccines have more limitations in terms of how the vaccine needs to be stored and transported. But today, internationally, vaccines are transported that way. A lot of vaccines that Pfizer is producing are actually being produced in Europe and they are being transported to US. So there should be no problem from transporting those from Europe to India. They can be transported to different parts of India directly. After that, it's going to be a bit of a challenge. But surely we can use these vaccines at least close to major cities, and we can take the other vaccines that we have to the periphery. Also, these companies are working on doing stability studies, and there are already data to show that the cold chain rules that had been originally thought are essential for these vaccines can be relaxed somewhat. So that's been done for Moderna. And I'm sure these things will change as we go along over time.
Certainly. Now, Dr. Guleria, the other thing is, of course, how, through what mechanism will they actually come into the country, these foreign vaccines, be it Pfizer, Moderna, and even for that matter, Johnson & Johnson, which is a single dose one, as would be Sputnik Light as and when it comes in. Because we have a strategy now for procurement of vaccines where 50% is to be procured by the centre and the rest has been left for state governments and private hospitals to do that. Will that be something that will be operative here as well, or will this have a separate mechanism?
So I think the mechanism or how to go about doing it will have to be worked out by sort of interacting with the various manufacturers and seeing how one can develop a strategy, whether it's through the center or through state governments, and the distribution pattern. That will need to be done on an individual basis depending on the manufacturers. But I think the best thing is that we should make it into a smooth process, whether it comes as a part of a central process or as part of state-driven process, so that they can be easily brought in without too much of red tapeism, and then work on a mechanism that the cold chain is maintained and they can boost the doses that we need in areas where it is possible to maintain the cold chain, and we can develop a differential strategy as far as vaccination is concerned. So I think this is a decision that will be taken with manufacturers in terms of negotiating things like the price and how they can sort of bring it into the country.
Yes, price is another factor, and Dr. Agarwal, we know that some of these vaccines, since there will be logistics involved, import involved, the cost could be more than what actually it is right now, even when they are being administered in different countries, their own home countries where they're being produced, or even outside where they've already been imported. But in India, it's also the question of economies of scale. So that is also something that perhaps will have to be worked out.
So I'm sure these companies will also work with Indian companies. Indian companies have a large production capacity. Yes, these are RNA vaccines, so that's something that Indian companies don't have much experience with, but our industry, vaccine industry, is very mature. They are flexible and they should be able to manufacture these. That will bring down the costs. Also, all over the world, vaccines have differential pricing. It's not necessary that a company charges the same price from a rich country or a poor country. There could be differences in prices. That's something that's beyond me. I am in the scientific space. That's for the the government to decide. But I'm sure, and also because we're going to buy large amounts, and now the rich countries are out of the market, right? So the vaccine prices could come down. It's the real novelty that was in the beginning would have come down, and we should be able to get cheaper prices in the day. But then, the question right now is more of procuring and getting the vaccine rather than prices. I'm sure prices will also be looked at, but right now the main important thing is to get the vaccine.
Right, and there is the goal of getting a WTA waiver as well as far as IPR is concerned. That is an agenda that has been mooted by India along with South Africa as well. It found support in the BRICS foreign ministers meeting as well, and that is something that is being supported in multiple quarters, Dr. Guleria. That goal of getting that exemption or waiver from intellectual property rights, that will be still pursued, right?
Sure, that is a larger goal.
Right.
That is something not only from Indian perspective, that's a global perspective. There are several groups, governmental groups, non-governmental groups, civil society, United Nations agencies that are trying to pursue that goal. So I'm sure that will continue. And these things, one always tries multiple channels. And whatever works, that will be used. Whatever is the best possible at a given time will be used.
Dr. Guleria, you wanted to come in on this as well?
No, I would totally agree with that. I think this is a good move because this will help in getting large-scale manufacturing being possible with the IPR waiver. And as we know, there are a large number of companies in India which have the capacity to manufacture these vaccines. And if there is this IPR waiver, then this will really be a big boost not only for India but for a large part of the world, which would be able to get these vaccines very quickly, and that will be a big help because then the cost will also come down and a number of people will be able to, number of manufacturers will be able to make the vaccine.
Right. And at the same time, Dr. Agarwal, we're also boosting our own capacities. Like you mentioned, we already have Covishield and Covaxin manufacturing capabilities are being boosted through technology transfer. And pretty soon, Dr. Reddy's will also start manufacturing Sputnik 5 as well. So that is something that will also serve not only India in the long run, but the entire world.
Yes, once our requirements are over, or while we are using some of that, this should be available to the rest of the world. The kind of international cooperation that has been seen in producing vaccine and distributing it around the world with this vaccine has not been seen in the past. There are arrangements such as COVAX, which will buy vaccine from one place, from countries that are producing it and distribute it around the world. So obviously these vaccines will also go to the COVAX program and to other countries, whether in the neighborhood or far away. In addition, there are plans to set up production of other vaccines. So the Novavax, which is protein vaccine, recombinant protein, that is going to be manufactured in India again by Serum Institute of India. There are other, Zydus is going to come up with a DNA vaccine which is currently in trials. There is a nasal vaccine being tried. So all these, if those are successful, will also be produced in India and should also be useful not only to people in our country, but to people around the world.
Right. So that goal, Dr. Guleria, of having everyone who is eligible, who can be vaccinated by the end of the year in the country is completely achievable, isn't it?
Definitely. I think we are looking at a very good vaccine strategy, and we will have enough doses to be able to do so. The next few weeks will really provide us a large number of doses, and as has already been mentioned, as we go along, we will have more companies coming in to really boost the vaccine supply that we have. And we have the capacity to vaccinate a large number of people on a daily basis. So that goal is quite achievable, both in terms of the availability of vaccine and in terms of implementing it onto a large part of our population.
Well, Godspeed to that, and let's hope that work gets done as soon as possible. Thanks so much for joining us this evening, Dr. Guleria and Dr. Agarwal as well.
Thank you.
Okay, now the Delhi High Court has pulled up the Delhi government over providing second dose of Covaxin to those who had already taken the first dose. The court observed that the government could not have started so many vaccine centers in the national capital if it was not sure of vaccine availability. The court issued notices to the government and asked to reply over the second dose to those who had taken the first dose of Covaxin before the 6-week time limit expires. Now, away from the war against COVID, the Union Cabinet has approved the Model Tenancy Act for circulation to all states and union territories for adaptation by way of enacting fresh legislation or amending existing rental laws suitably. The Act aims to create a vibrant, sustainable and inclusive rental housing market in the country. Its approval is expected to overhaul the legal framework with respect to rental housing across the country as well.
The Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, has approved the Model Tenancy Act for circulation to all states and union territories for adaptation by way of enacting fresh legislation or amending existing rental laws suitably. The Act will help overhaul the legal framework with respect to rental housing across the country, which would help spur its overall growth. The Model Tenancy Act aims at creating a vibrant, sustainable and inclusive rental housing market in the country. It will enable creation of adequate rental housing stock for all the income groups, thereby addressing the issue of homelessness. The Model Tenancy Act will enable institutionalization of rental housing by gradually shifting it towards the formal market.
The Model Tenancy Act will provide an overall regulatory framework. How we will bring more empty and vacant units into the productive economic sphere. पहले लोग क्यों नहीं देते थे अपने आवास को किराए पे? क्योंकि उनको लगता था कि ये एक बारी दे दिया किराए पे तो शायद मिले नहीं. तो अभी जो प्रोस्पेक्टिव है, जो पुराने चले आ रहे हैं पगड़ी सिस्टम पे, we are not touching those.
The Model Tenancy Act MTA would balance the rights and interests of both the landlord and tenants. It would avoid disputes by clarifying the roles and responsibilities of the landlord as well as the tenants. Time-bound and robust grievance redressal mechanism comprising of rent authority, rent court and rent tribunal to provide fast-track resolution of disputes. The MTA seeks to cover both urban and rural areas. In this act, security deposit equal to a maximum of 2 months' rent will have to be given in case of residential premises and maximum of 6 months' rent in case of non-residential premises. This act is expected to give a big boost and fillip to the rental housing market.
Model Tenancy Act की implementation से landlords में confidence आ जाएगा to more readily put their premises on rent, which will have a dual advantage. एक तो an asset which has been created and which is lying dormant suddenly becomes a active productive asset. अगर आप में ये विश्वास आता है कि आपके पास एसेट है, उसको आप प्रोडक्टिवली यूज कर सकते हैं, तो और लोग भी इन्वेस्ट करना चाहेंगे, either through the affordable rental housing scheme or in general to build units for residential or commercial use as part of overall economic activity.
Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs Hardeep Singh Puri said that the Model Tenancy Act will provide confidence to landlords to rent out vacated premises with no fear of not getting the premises back post the tenancy period. According to an estimate, around 1.1 crore vacant houses are available on rent. Implementation of the Model Rent Act by the states will encourage putting these houses on rent. This will not only promote growth of rental housing and investment in the sector, but will also help meet the goal of housing for all by 2022. With inputs from Shailendra Mishra, Bureau Report, DD India.
In other decisions taken in the Union Cabinet today, it is which was chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it has given its ex post facto approval for signing and ratification of an agreement on cooperation in the field of mass media between all the member states of Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The agreement was signed in June 2019. It shall promote equal and mutually beneficial cooperation among associations in the field of mass media. Each side shall, on the basis of reciprocity, facilitate the activities, thereby ensuring equity. The agreement would provide an opportunity for member states to share best practices and new innovations in the field of mass media. Also in the Union Cabinet, chaired by the PM, approval was given to the signing of a memorandum of cooperation on sustainable urban development between the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, India, and the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure, Transport and Tourism, Japan. The MOC will replace the existing MOU of 2007 on urban development. Under the agreement, India-Japan technical cooperation in the field of sustainable urban development would be strengthened. The joint working group will be constituted to strategize and implement programs. The group will meet once a year, alternately Japan and India. And the Union Cabinet, also chaired by the PM, was apprised of the Memorandum of Understanding signed between the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, India, and the Ministry of National Planning, Housing and Infrastructure, Maldives, on cooperation in the field of sustainable urban development. The MOU was signed in February this year. The MOU will promote strong, deep and long-term bilateral cooperation in the field of sustainable urban development between India and Maldives. Now, Union Minister for Health and Family Welfare, Dr. Harsh Vardhan, has successfully completed his tenure as chairperson of Executive Board of the WHO. And on this occasion, Dr. Harsh Vardhan virtually addressed the 149th session of the WHO Executive Board meeting. During his address, the Health Minister said at the time when the world is grappling with COVID-19, the biggest need of the hour is a greater degree of shared idealism of nations.
This is a time when we all understand that there are going to be many urgent health challenges in the next 2 decades. All these challenges demand a shared response because these are shared threats requiring shared responsibility to act. And of course, this is also the core philosophy of WHO. I have been saying this time and again that the biggest need of the hour is a greater degree of shared idealism of nations.
Now for some news from across the country in our national wrap.
Army Chief General M.M. Narwane, who is on a 2-day visit to Kashmir, reviewed the prevailing security situation in the Union Territory. He was briefed by local commanders on the existing security situation and the measures being taken to identify and target the overground workers network involved in radicalization and recruitment of youth into terrorist ranks. Karnataka Chief Minister B.S. Yediyurappa on Wednesday held a meeting in Bengaluru with the State Energy Minister and senior officials of the Electricity Department on production, demand and supply of electricity. Giving strict warning to those who attacked civil health workers engaged in vaccine awareness drive in Khunti, Jharkhand, Health Minister Banna Gupta said people should not indulge in such acts. He said, government will deal strictly with such mischievous elements. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Tirath Singh Rawat on Wednesday virtually inaugurated a 500-bed hospital set up by the Defence Research and Development Organization for COVID-19 patients in Haldwani. The facility comprises 375 oxygen beds and 125 ICU beds with ventilators. With 100% power backup, it is centrally air-conditioned for all weather conditions. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday in his first visit to the national capital since assuming office last month. Junior doctors in government-run hospitals in Bhopal continued their strike for the 3rd day. Patient services in these hospitals remain affected. Juda President Dr. Harish Pathak said government has not taken any decision on the demands of doctors so far. Retired Supreme Court Judge Justice Arun Mishra assumed charge as the chairperson of the National Human Rights Commission on Wednesday. He had retired from the Apex Court on 3rd September last year. Police in Bihar were directed not to use mobiles or any electronic device and to not be active on social media while on traffic or VIP duty. The order was issued by the Bihar DGP S.K. Singhal in a letter addressed to all the senior police officials of the state. Shops opened in Patna after relaxation of COVID-19 guidelines. Shops were closed for over a month. Now shops will open 3 days a week from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Now, the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development's two-day Leader Summit kick-started on Wednesday, beginning with the ministerial session. Leaders highlighted media's role in dissemination of information during the pandemic, as well as on sustaining the advocacy and sensitization campaign. A session on devising safety guidelines for media practitioners during the pandemic was also held. Here's more.
The Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development virtually held the inaugural session of the Leaders Web Summit with the theme Redefining the Role of Media in the New Norm. The Web Summit aims at deliberating the role of media in mitigating crisis through awareness and dissemination of information. In the ministerial session at the inaugural, several insights were shared by information ministers of countries and policy makers. Philippines Information Minister, while addressing the summit, said that it is only through unity and togetherness that we can overcome such challenges, especially during the COVID-19 pandemic.
The impacts created by the COVID-19 pandemic in its early stages, the role of both traditional and digital media have been severely minimized as traditional operations had been halted. The employment, therefore, of a multifaceted approach was deemed necessary and vital for the continuous flow of life-saving information. As a government withstood the test of the pandemic in its early stage and given our mandate in engaging and involving the citizenry in the mass media.
Newly appointed AIBD President Mayank Agarwal said that this platform will enable content sharing among member countries. He also highlighted the importance of video sharing in empowering lives during the pandemic.
Even when there is an air of despair and despondency, a lot of good things are happening around the world which are not in public domain. We can learn from each other's traditions, cultures, the knowledge preserved by the communities, and the new advances in the field of technology and medicine at the same time. The aim is high and the dream is big. The success of the new platform will depend on active participation by the member countries.
In Session 1, India put forth its perspective of public service broadcasting during the pandemic and the behavioral change communication through public service messaging. On day 2 of the summit, a session for CEO Insights is planned, where Prasar Bharati CEO Shashi Shekhar Vempati will deliver an address along with CEOs and managing directors of different broadcasters. With a number of sessions planned on a host of subjects, participants are also highlighting accomplishments and discussing the challenges that have been brought forth globally by the pandemic. Meghna Dev's report for DD India.
And now in some international news, in Australia has extended the coronavirus lockdown in its capital of Melbourne for a second week. People will be required to stay at home except for essential work, shopping, exercise, caregiving, or to get a COVID vaccine. However, some measures have been eased, including the expansion of travel limits to within 10 kilometers of the home, and senior school students will be allowed to return to classrooms. Meanwhile, outside the state capital, restrictions will be relaxed for regional towns with limited outdoor gatherings and the reopening of restaurants. Now, Britain is in talks with Oxford and AstraZeneca for additional doses of their COVID-19 vaccine that has been modified to better target the beta coronavirus variant. Britain has previously secured 100 million doses of the vaccine and is committed to fund trials for the new adapted vaccine. Meanwhile, the country reported 0 daily COVID deaths within 28 days of a positive test for the first time since March 2020 on Tuesday. The health minister said that the vaccines were clearly working and people still needed to take precautions. Germany will pay vaccine manufacturers an annual reservation fee to build up reserve capacity of 600 to 700 million doses per year to help it fight future pandemics. Health Minister Jens Spahn said that the government plans to launch a call for tenders for pandemic preparedness contracts with a 5-year term. Germany will also set up a center for pandemic vaccines at its vaccine regulator and also aims to boost domestic production to ensure it's not deprived of shots in future pandemics. In Israel, opposition leader has moved closer to unseating Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and forming a new government after agreeing to terms with several parties. The union came into being after far-right leader Naftali Bennett joined hands with centrist Yair Lapid's Yesh Atid party. Centrist politician Yair Lapid has until today midnight to present a final slate of new coalition. Deals have also been reached with the left-wing Meretz and centre-left Labour parties, as well as with the United Arab List. Meanwhile, Netanyahu has said that he is still capable of forming the next government. Parliament will have 3 weeks to agree on a new candidate if no coalition is put together by today's deadline. And Israel's parliament elected former centre-left politician Isaac Herzog as the country's president. Herzog will be Israel's 11th president, succeeding Reuven Rivlin, who is set to leave office next month after 7 years in office. Herzog defeated Miriam Peretz, an educator, by a vote of 87 lawmakers to 26. Herzog was first elected to parliament in 2003 and held several portfolios in coalition governments. His most recent public post was as head of the Jewish Agency for Israel, which encourages immigration. Prime Minister Netanyahu congratulated Herzog for the win. Now, Malaysia will send a diplomatic protest to Beijing and summon the Chinese ambassador after the military detected 16 Chinese aircraft, that is military aircraft, in its airspace off the Borneo coast. The planes of the People's Liberation Army Air Force were tracked over Malaysia's maritime zone by the Malaysian Air Force on Sunday. Meanwhile, Malaysian fighter jets were scrambled to intercept the transport planes on Monday after detecting suspicious activity over the South China Sea. Malaysia's foreign ministry has described the maneuver as a serious threat to national sovereignty. However, China said its aircraft had abided by international law. Iran's largest navy ship, the Kharg, sank after catching fire in the Gulf of Oman. The country's highest tonnage navy vessel caught fire in the Gulf of Oman near the port of Jask, where it was on a training mission. All of its crew members were rescued safely after hours of operations. However, efforts to save the ship itself were unsuccessful. The Kharg serves as one of the few vessels in the Iranian Navy capable of providing replenishment at sea for its other ships. It can also lift heavy cargo and serve as a launch point for helicopters. The ship was commissioned in 1984. Sports news now, and Team India is set to lock horns with New Zealand in the ICC World Test Championship starting from the 18th of June at the AJS Bowl in Southampton. The final game of the Test Championship will be followed by a 5-match Test series between India and hosts England. The 5-game Test series will be played between the 4th of August and the 14th of September. Indian cricket team skipper Virat Kohli and head coach Ravi Shastri said the WTC final is very important for the team and players have worked very hard to perform at their best.
It's the toughest form of the game. It's a format that tests you. It's not happened over 3 days or 3 months. It's happened over 2 years, where teams have played each other around the world and earned their stripes to play the final. So it's one heck of an event. This.
हमने 5-6 साल जो मेहनत करी है, जैसे मैंने बोला, उसको एंजॉय करने का समय है अभी. तो हमारा देखने का नजरिया काफी अलग रहता है, जैसे लोग सोचते हैं बाहर उससे. अगर हम लोगों की तरह सोचेंगे तो परफॉर्मेंस नहीं हो पाएगा. तो मेरे ऊपर तो कोई प्रेशर नहीं है, क्योंकि मैं इस पोजीशन में जहाँ पे मुझे रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी दी गई है, ना मैं किसी मोटिव की वजह से, ना मैं किसी दूसरे रीजन की वजह से इस रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी को निभा रहा हूँ. मैं सिर्फ इंडियन क्रिकेट को आगे ले जाने के लिए कमिटेड हूँ, जो मैं रहूंगा जब तक मैं ये गेम खेलूंगा. तो मेरे ऊपर ना तो कभी पहले प्रेशर रहा है और ना आगे रहेगा, क्योंकि जब तक मैं 100% कमिटेड हूँ टीम के लिए और अपने टीममेट्स की हेल्प कर रहा हूँ, वो एक दूसरे की हेल्प कर रहे हैं, सिर्फ यही चीज हमारे लिए मैटर करती है और ये हमारा जो फाइनल है उसे एंजॉय करने का सब.
So both captain and head coach are sounding pretty confident about the prospects of a win in England, be it in the WTC or in the series against hosts England. Tennis now, in world number 6, Alexander Zverev reached the third round of the French Open with a 7-6, 6-3, 7-6 victory over qualifier Romain Safiullin. Zverev has never been past the quarterfinals at Roland Garros, but has managed to avoid Rafael Nadal, Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer in his side of the draw this year. Well, 2 Russian cosmonauts ventured out of the International Space Station on a spacewalk to prepare for the arrival of a new Russian module. It's the first spacewalk for both Russian cosmonauts Oleg Novitsky and Pyotr Dubrov, and it was expected to last about 6 hours. They will disconnect all external mechanical links between Russian module Zvezda and the International Space Station and get the space station ready for docking. The new multi-purpose laboratory module is named Nauka. And after those celestial shots, it's time for us to say goodnight to you for tonight. That's all in Newsnight, but for all the latest, do stay tuned to DD News.